isso. Sorry. It's 1 o'clock, time to call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Father, we just thank you again for the day of the week and ask for your blessing on us and help us to make wise decisions and beneficial to you and citizens of Grand County and the employees. We just thank you for the things you're giving us and so that those privileges and people who stand for it.
Bill, all right, good afternoon, everybody. First item on our agenda is county personnel or public comment. Is there any?
You don't have time, 10 minutes, just to say, on like personnel.
Think so. I think so. We don't have, do you have 10 minutes? I mean, okay. I see that, but we try to be pretty flexible, especially when you're here. So yeah, I think so. Okay, well, I would go ahead and call for a 10-minute executive session with the three commissioners and the sheriff to discuss non-elected personnel, duties, performance, whatever. Did you have one?
Yeah, there's.
Okay, duties and performance for 10 minutes. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. 10 minutes, about 1:12. Okay, we're out of executive session, back into regular with no binding action taken. I don't have any. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, is there any other county personnel or public comment? If none, we would move on. However, if there is some and we're still here, we will make time for you. So we can walk right down our agenda here. Bear with me as I find. Is everybody here that we could go ahead and get started? So if it's all right with you, can we just go ahead? So you want to just come on up? We've got this block grant and a construction extension, and what else do you have?
So just a little background. So my name is Brett Wagner. Okay. Environmental Assistance Services.
Right.
I recognize that the two of you weren't on the commission when this project first started, but you were. So
Never forget me.
the city, I'm sorry, the CDBG program allows cities and counties to apply on behalf of sometimes for-profit businesses and sometimes nonprofits. The grants always have to flow through a city or county with no exceptions. So the county applied on behalf of Karen's agency for this building grant. We've been going through the process of construction, and we finally reached the point where we're out of time as far as what CDBG is concerned with the original contract. Now, CDBG, it's federal funding that comes from HUD, Washington, DC. The state of Kansas, in their program, they put a 2-year time limit on all their projects. And unfortunately, that's a 2-year time limit regardless of whether you're building a playground or a multi-million-dollar facility. So with that in mind, they recognize not all projects are created equal. They allow extensions if you have a reason for an extension. And of course, they don't want to put a stop to this project. So what we're here today is to ask for an official commission motion that will allow for an extension request. And because it is a contract between the county and the state, it has to be a form of a commission action.
Okay.
My company does the grant administration for this part of the project, the CDBG part of the project. So I like to come to the meeting in person when I can, just in case there's any questions that I can answer from you all.
When I read the information, it was an elevator and some parking lot work.
Right.
And is that it?
We're both heading out there later this afternoon. I need to be waiting there. Maybe he's going for an inspection or a meeting or something, but.
We're supposed to be over this meeting. Something nature's not being mine.
Who's the general contractor?
HRS.
So when AHRS entered into a contract to build the project, did they enter into a contract with any kind of a schedule?
Yeah. So there's always an architect that's involved in these projects, and that's not us. I didn't check on what the contract days were, whether they were working days or calendar days. I'm not sure if that's been exceeded or not. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's been exceeded or not, but I know that because of the lack of the equipment that they can install with the elevator, right, that they should be allowed some sort of an extension in the construction contract. But that would be between the architect and.
Yeah, but you know when they actually go purchase orders for that equipment?
I have no idea. Yeah, those are really aggressive.
The elevator had to be changed. The original elevator was more than the electrical capacity of the facility, so we had to switch elevators. So different size.
Sure.
different-
I understand that, and I listen, you guys aren't, this isn't like questioning you, like, how did we get here? My thing is we're signing for an extension, which
Mhm.
I understand why. Or what I want to know is, are they going to meet that extension?
Yes.
And if they don't, what happens?
If they don't, there are really only two things that can happen. Either CDBG could say, forget it, you're out of time, we're stopping right now. And by that point, all the grant money will be extended anyway.
Okay, so by that point, they can't claw back what they've already given?
I think there's always a chance that they could, but not because of this reason. It would be for some sort of financial wrongdoing.
Okay,
Which is what our company makes sure that the county and the.
Sure.
Some are full compliance all the time, so. That would be, highly unlikely and unheard of, at least as far as I know. Okay,
So again, my questions are, we're putting our name on something saying we approve of this.
that's right.
And so when it gets to this point that we're already over schedule, I want to make sure that the general contractor knows we're signing our name saying it'll be done
Sure.
and it needs to be done.
Okay.
Because in all of these contracts, there's usually a part of the contract that talks about timely notification if there's a problem.
Right.
Right? And as a GC, they should be writing a letter saying, hey, now because of these unforeseen changes on the project, it's going to cause this, this and that.
Yeah.
And the letter should be generated and that way they can, because I've been there many times trying to install equipment that isn't there.
Okay.
And so I'm just saying all this because we're signing our name on this side of the desk and I want to make sure when we sign our name that the contractor understands that if there's anything beyond his control that's going to prevent us from making that next extension, we need to know about it early.
Sure.
You need to know about it early.
So I think it would be helpful if I clarified, even though the whole project team had known for quite some time that we were going to need an extension.
Okay.
CDBG doesn't want us to guess. They didn't want us to guess 3 months ago or 4 months ago how much time we were gonna need. So about a month and a half, maybe even 2 months ago, I asked the architect and the contractor, I said, you guys, we're gonna need an extension request. We need to do it in July before the contract expires. I want you guys to put some time into this, develop a timeline that's realistic. I would use that word, a realistic timeline.
Right.
So they took their time, they visited with suppliers, they visited amongst the contractor and subcontractor and architect. This is what they came up with. So sure, you're involved in construction, so you know.
Yeah, the term I use,
Maybe it'll work.
the term I used all the time was mutually agreed upon,
There you go. Yes, yeah.
which
And this,
basically means that two parties are getting together and doing their best.
yes,
Right.
that's exactly what happened here.
Okay.
That's what they've done. HRS and the architect, been most.
Well, again, we're not building the project. You guys are doing all this. I'm just saying. When I have to sign my name for something, I would say. I'm not just gonna sign it and go, I hope you make this date.
Right.
So,
Well, hopefully we're not coming back for another extension. The next time I see you guys, I would love to be here for the photo. So, sure.
All right.
So I got one question at least. So on your day of request is today, and within the contract award date says it's 8/1/2023. And the completion date is 7/31/26. So you said it was a 2-year deal. That's 3 years.
And this one was 3 years. There was a previous extension due to the length of time it took to design the project. That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
since you said usually 2 years before.
Yeah. This is actually the second extension request.
Number two, you can see.
And then this one on the elevator. Is it all above ground or does it have a big pit underneath it? Like one in the courthouse?
It does have a bit.
Yeah, it's.
It's a hydraulic cylinder?
I
That
think
thing?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Just the grant administrator and not the architect, but I've definitely seen a hole in the ground there last time I was
I
there.
mean, seemed like a big mess when they had to repair this one.
so what you described was the architect designed a job and designed facilities on the job, but the amperage on the project would cover the facilities that he designed. So,
You're becoming new now.
I see.
I go thinking the exact same thing.
Well. At this point, it sounds like with your experience that, they'll give us the extension, right?
Very, very certain of that.
Okay, so that's what we want. We want the project to be built. We don't want somebody coming back and saying it wasn't done correctly, so we're not giving you as much money and we have a problem.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like, from your experience, that's what's happening here. I'm just saying going forward, we should have a clear understanding that either the contractor and the designer and the architect, anybody, if it starts being problems again, maybe you could let us know that maybe we can assist in writing a letter or something stating that, usually what happens when a project goes off schedule, there's a new schedule given. Usually acceleration in that schedule to show how they're gonna correct the problem on these certain needs. Equipment is a huge problem all across the United States.
Sure.
But I mean, the equipment not going in doesn't stop the concrete from being down. I realize we've had some wet days, but the contractor that did that also has to understand this. Let's be getting done. So, anyways, that's enough preaching from me. I just, if there's any assistance from here on out in this time extension that we're signing for, at least get in touch with us, because maybe we can put our heads together and come up with an acceleration that shows it gets done in time.
We appreciate that, and I think what I propose is I'll make a calendar reminder after all of our monthly progress meetings. Sure. I'll shoot an email to Nikki and just let her know if you guys want to be updated, right, that we've gone through another month, this is where we're at, still think we're on schedule, or we've gone through another 2 months and there's still a problem and they don't know what's going on. I'm happy to do that.
Okay. And one other question, was there liquidated damages in the contract, you guys and the contractor?
Typically, there are.
Good, well, it looks nice. I drive by it all the time. It's coming, it's
The
nice.
inside looks nice, other than the elevator, most of the offices are complete, I mean, finished paint.
It's nice to see a project that's not just metal, built, right, with no overhangs.
Yeah.
That's great.
Architecture, please.
That was a Walmart requirement, by the way.
And good for them.
The deed restrictions from Walmart
Yes.
were,
On their
that
outlet.
was a huge delay.
Another
The outbound
initial delay before
sold
the
out.
start design. Yeah, that's another reason why there was the initial year to begin with.
Months on this.
Yeah.
And then just the contract. This is actually 2 separate contracts.
Yes.
The interesting thing is usually on those outlots, they don't have anything that would conflict with anything they do.
Correct.
So the minute you guys said you're selling food, I'm surprised we're this far. Or you were providing food, right?
It's because it's the Meals on Wheels. And we're not about it, so.
Okay, well, in front of me then is a contract amendment here, request number 2 for an extension to move this project completion date to December 31st of this year, and a letter just stating the same thing. So from you gentlemen, if you're agreeable, we need a motion to, I guess, sign or accept this contract extension request. Go along. And want to make the motion.
There's a contractor.
I'll move.
I'd make a motion to accept this contract, to extend contract to the date provided in amendment request number 2.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming in and talking.
Yeah.
Where did you have to come?
We all, at our company, we all work from home. My wife and I are partners in the company. We live in downtown Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Our company's been doing that. So another married couple that are partners in the company. That's pretty very good. Yeah. Happy to come up here whenever you guys need.
It's nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Sorry.
Just fine. Okay.
And with the bill, if there, this is. I was capital so many times. You'd asked about, it, and I didn't even thought of it until you said that it's. I'm not. Yeah, so look, you be doing that, sure. So, sure, it sounds like they are, so. Okay. Now, Tammy, did you have something you'd like to talk to us about? Okay. The email? And then? She sent an, maybe you guys have seen it already. Tammy sent an email. Was it to all of us?
Well, it's come to me anyway.
Yeah, about 105 Street or something from Mercury.
Austin, how are you doing? Okay. Are you on a time crunch today?
After 2, if I.
Okay.
That's great, that's first.
Okay. so-
There's a paper copy for public photos of you, but one.
I'm assuming that's the same for making you, right? Yes.
It's, the maps are on the page 2, 3, and 4. It looks like it's just 105th from like, is it Barnesville that's out there? And goes to 75 highway then. Because there's just, it's just this little section.
Did we change
Huh?
our document?
So that go- It doesn't
Putting
go,
those boxes.
it jogs up and then meet the highway and then it comes up still on Timothy and then goes out.
I don't remember.
Last week.
We discussed why.
No, wait a minute.
problem.
One
Last
Timothy,
thing was that.
excuse me, that's wrong. That's the highway up there.
Yeah. But-
Right, yeah, so the gas station.
County doesn't plan.
The old
They
gas
are
station, so
So if we change that, we'd have to go at the time of permit, which I understand what you're saying.
It looks like it goes under the highway.
Goes out there and then comes out here and goes. So where are they starting at?
It's just one of the. We're starting to
West of the highway.
The counter. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, they're just one page that shows the alignment, and that's what I'm saying. Oh, so I'm sorry, they weren't popping up. So these travels along 105th, goes up to Tower.
When you were putting it on the map, I asked Mr. Tessero about the discussion we had on these things the last time was these boxes weren't far enough away from the road. On a different part of,
Yeah.
on a different project,
Right.
an older project. So my question to him, and I don't remember that we actually did anything on that. As far as changing our permit process to make sure they're farther away. Go ahead.
No. But
So when I look at these prints. If I was installing this conduit for fiber. Okay. It shows the intended. Installation along the right of way, but there's no dimensions given from center line or edge of traveled roadway or anything like that. So they basically can put their boxes. Basically, they put them where they fit. In the past, we've had problems at the rise where boxes get too close to the traveled roadway. When we push snow, if they're set above grade,
right,
that's a problem. So because there's nothing on here, I don't see any special provisions, I don't see any notes that talk about the exact location of the handhole pull box. If we. What I would propose on this is not a big job, is I would propose that. One of our guys from Road and Bridge would go walk the layout and ask them to lay out their handholds and work with them. A lot of times you have on-site meet and greet or whatever, and you discuss all that at that on-site. So during the permit process, we should state that we want them to reach out to Jerry, our superintendent, to discuss the placement of the handholds. And that way, if they were gonna place them and it was gonna be a problem, that's the time to address it right there, because they can be easily moved back and forth as long as there's room between the road and the right of way. So to answer your question, we don't have a set of standard plans that says we don't want anything, and it clearly tells them where that handle has to be placed. And this job would be a perfect job to start that process with. And just say that we need a meet and greet with our superintendent and make sure that their handhole placement is laid out. It works with Brown County. Okay, but it doesn't cost them more money or anything like that.
Correct.
It's just simply adjusting. In those locations, they might be able to go right next to the traveled edge.
and I can. put that in my email when my email
Sure.
goes back to.
Sure. And so what you'd be talking about, say they have a cut sheet on their handles for this project. Okay, made by Old Castle. All you'd have to say is that prior to installation, would like to have a meet at the site with our superintendent to discuss the placement of the handles. Simple as that. Jerry might go out there and say, yeah, they're fine. But at least so we don't have what happened with the
Right.
tribe and after the fact, because if you came to me after the fact and said your handles are in the wrong location, I'd say, based off of what? If you want to pay to move them, I'll move them, but I'm not moving. So there are linear footage and spelled out to where how many feet apart they're gonna go. But besides that, they're just showing it in the right of way.
And they've got a pretty wide lane to work in.
Sure.
Okay, so does that sound, you'll just put it in the email, but
And it doesn't need to be too complex. The permit can get signed. You can't have a permit where it addresses it there very well because every job is different. They may not even be, the next job, they might be going right down the traveled roadway and setting traffic rated pole boxes. So if you put something there about the pole box has to be so many feet out of the right of way, it would contradict what they're doing. So I think it's better just to address it the way we're doing it. Time of permit, and make sure they're talking with Jerry.
okay. Do you have any questions?
I agree.
Okay.
And I've been giving him copies of things.
Right on. All
The
right.
good thing about that is that if our road and bridge guys come back later and complain about something that happened, we can say, well, you knew it was happening, you can go.
Well, we don't think it would, put it in the last. Okay, so in front of us, we have permit number 26-04. Anyone want to make a motion to approve that? Or move forward in some way?
You think it's all right, Jim?
Yeah, I think
Good.
with Tammy on it, I think it'll be just
I
fine.
move with approve permit number 26-04. With
Okay.
Mercury Fiber.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried.
And then I'll have you when that was, I sent Jerry her name and number,
Perfect.
and he's going to.
Okay, okay. Thank you for doing that. I'll reach out to him after our meeting's over too, so we can get connected on that since Everest is my part of the world. Is there anything else for us while you're here?
Just the fuel, what do you want me to do with that? Since Ed Hartman's not doing it. There's no two bids of them.
She used to go to Ag Partners and Berwick. Now Berwick's owned by Ag Partners. When she had brought it up, I just said, obviously we need fuel, but can we just look? I'm not trying to hold things up, but can we also look and see if somebody also quote us in the future?
I went back to my office and then just Googled, fuel delivery. Transport,
Mm-hmm.
and the closest one, there's one in Mary's. And then it's brought up to Peter.
Those are his terminals, all right?
There would be consumer oil out of Indina would be the closest one I can.
And there's one at Parallel Farms in Whiting, delivers to
But
there.
yeah, nothing I can think of in Brown County.
And that's just it, so if you get too far away, they're gonna charge. Mileage or transport fee or whatever.
So when you lay fuel in, do they bring you 5,000 at a time or what?
For Hiawatha, for the unleaded, they bring 4,000,
4,000.
it's usually to fill it up, that's a 5,000 gallon tank, but. Like District 1 and 2, 3 and 2 only have 1,000 gallon tanks.
Okay.
Like Jerry, today, I'm looking for 900 to 1,000 gallons of diesel.
But Whiting's pretty close to Orton.
Yeah.
Whether or not they wanted to deal with the county or not is a question. And they kind of work, if we're coming this way, let us fill you up, sure, usually. But they notify you when it comes.
For price discovery, we want to have a bid or two bids, I would think, but it gets a little complicated because we'd like to do business in Brown County with Brown County.
Well, I think what it would show is, I mean, your feeling is that right now Ag Partners will still be the best price because of the distance the other companies are coming from. Doesn't hurt to ask, and just to keep them honest, that, you know, every once in a while, we should be asking. If we get ourselves in a position where we're only using one company because they bought out the other companies in town, we need to keep them honest. That doesn't necessarily mean every time. But you know better than anybody that if they're quoting fuel and you know, it's at a certain level or it's going up a little bit or whatever, but the next time they quote it, if you see a really big jump, that should be the trigger that, wait a minute. This seems like an awful lot more, so. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that will quote us, and all the quote does is it goes in the file and show that at the time, we couldn't get it cheaper. What about Fall City? Do they have anybody, right? You know, it's across state line.
I haven't really researched it.
Tammy, I'll ask some questions, and I know some people in fuel. I'll send you some information, some contacts, things like. Would that be okay?
That would be,
Okay,
so for this time, I'm just gonna go collect
yeah, I think that's just fine.
We understand.
because he needs it,
Absolutely.
so. It's for the trucks.
Sure.
And I think that's all.
Okay,
Hopefully it'll be cheaper than last time, because the last time you ordered it, oil was up higher than it is right now. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of reduction from last time.
We get good pricing from them.
Good.
9 times out of 10. Ag Partners will beat them. But there was that occasional 1 or 2 times they beat them, Berwick would come back and beat them by a penny or something, so. So.
all right. Thank you.
There's not more.
So I got one question for you, Lee. On his accounts payable, there's a equipment share. The service and parts, I think equipment share of that. Like $14,000.
That was. I knew you were gonna, I should have been able to ask you about that before.
You took the, well, tell me later, in the water district charged $234 and there's about $20.
I called Jerry about that and he said that there's a leak somewhere.
Does this help you? There's the layout there. Equipment share.
And I was trying to remember what. I didn't put which one was on. Let's see, on my computer, I put what this.
Okay.
I wanna say it was 2.
Okay, there's 2 fairly big bills under Road and Bridge, the 14,248.98 with equipment share. And then there's another one for 22,217.
That-
Which is the truck being repaired in Nebraska.
That we have basically rebuilt.
It was the, it had to do with the DEF system. It went into limp mode and they had to haul it up there.
Really? Yeah, okay. All right,
I'm just the messenger.
you're all right. You're doing just fine. Thank you.
And it was the truck from Fairfield.
Yeah, it was number 4. Maybe.
All right.
Wait now. I don't know the numbers.
You guys start asking me questions, tell me to bring my file, and then I'll have every answer.
Well, we haven't got
We
to it
didn't.
yet, but since you were here, I thought I'd ask you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now. We just go right to number 8.
Yes, sir. So, I met with Betty this week, BJ up top. Had a conversation. It looks like he spoke with states and Spark Revenue. And I think we may be able to use still some of the process that we had going through the previous allocation during the sale here. I think we'll have to republish a couple of notices. I think this process I've been looking at alternatives. I haven't found one yet. But I think that state would like a couple of things switched, and then there was maybe an error manually when the sheriff office looked at one of the VIN numbers. Again, these are all junk vehicles, okay, but I have to go back and look at another one of the junk vehicles that we're looking forward to dispose of and work on that. I caught the sheriff on his way out, so they will chat with him. I'll probably follow up with the sheriff this week on that. And follow up on what we can reuse that as process to get this over with, because we're not. At this point, we're probably losing money on the sale, but we have to get these things out. They're not worth very much money. They're gonna go to scrap. So we're working on that.
So on that note, I talked to you about, is there a way for us to salvage the vehicles ourselves?
I've been looking at that. I think that the challenge with that is, I think we're gonna end up in back with the Kansas Department of Revenue and code, like a code defendant, because they'll want to issue market title on it. Even though we don't need title on these vehicles, and then they'll say, well, you need to go through all this notice process. And so what I would have done is just buy title of all vehicles to do that and then just scrap them. But I haven't found anything yet. And I'm still looking at state statute that allows us to just dispose of these as like town property. Because the specifics of the vehicle. And yeah, we want to follow all of the compliance, but I am definitely trying to find an avenue that allows us to dispose of these vehicles. But it's not cost effective. Like none of these vehicles are going to be titled. Nobody's going to check on the title. They're going to go to the junkyard, get scrapped or great.
Once these are cleared out of the system, Austin, is there any point in letting them accumulate again, or
Oh no.
can we just get them as they come in?
Yeah, once these are out of the system, what we should do is just run the type of search that we're running now. You could wait for 2, but I would just do 1 potentially, and then, send the notice. And after that's sent, file a certificate of compliance. Issue the notices as we would underneath state law. And scrap them. So, and we might have more value at that point, because then if you get one that's like abandoned and it's not quite so old, and haven't sat for 10 years, maybe somebody would buy it, other than they could scrap yard, so. Might not lose so much money on it.
I called Austin on this because I don't like spending a bunch of money to get rid of something that goes and gets destroyed. And this is the first process of this, of many, many, many times the county's gonna do this. And so I'm looking at, how do we as a county get rid of these vehicles that end up in our impound yard from a bad wreck a lot of times, total out vehicle. And we're going through all this paperwork as if the car is going to get registered, and we're not, the car is never gonna get registered. So I just asked them legally, do we have the right just to become the salvage yard and haul them there ourselves and save some money?
And we might have one other that I haven't looked through, that I haven't finished looking at, we could maybe pass a home rule resolution. Okay, like, it'd be a charter resolution, because there's a provision under state law that 127 applies, almost specifically to Crawford County, Kansas, that says. You can have a motion to abate, or you can have a separate process for the abatement of nuisance vehicles. And it's because it doesn't uniformly apply to all counties in the state of Kansas, and may be able to adopt a resolution on that. Bring back from the charter resolution, bring it back, it gets published 2 weeks, and then we're declaring that these vehicles are of salvage value, they're never gonna be titled, and we just dispose of them on auction. I'll have to look at that, because that's not, you're not gonna get valid title out of this, but we're not trying to issue that, we're just trying to dispose of them as salvage vehicles. And that may take care of it, because that also alleviates the burden off of Betty trying to go ahead and, or BJ trying to go ahead and get salvage title, because you are getting regular title, but you can't get title if you don't follow the state process. But we're not trying to follow the state process, because we're just gonna sell these as scrap. So that may be the thing we do. And there may be some precedent for that, so I'll work on that this week and see if there's a way around it. But that's the one that I could find. It is probably the most extreme version of getting around this if we could have, but it would probably take less time. Get it over with.
Okay, anything else?
He's working on that, and then also, we're not in a position where we have to I mean, the budget is not, I'm not really working on the budget, obviously, we've only had a few exercises of things that impact that. Whatever we think insurance will be in terms of budget, like, you don't have to make that decision between now and October, but. You know, you're in a position where you've got some budget numbers that have come back. And so, you know, there's a couple different ways that you can budget for that and what that means. And so you may have a worst case scenario budget, and then you may also have the ability that you're budgeting at the top end and make a decision later and use the rest of that as a reserve. Because at the end of the year, you could transfer out whatever that surplus is to your reserve funds. And a transfer that could go to capital improvements, capital outlay, or just a reserve fund for your benefits. So again, that's something I would think about as you're moving forward, what you're gonna do with that. You don't have to make a decision on that right now, though. That's the beautiful thing about this, because we're not at renewal time. So you have information up front of what you could do. You could wait to make that decision later on and learn what that's gonna be, if that makes sense. I do have another point, on. There may be a possibility on the alternative bridge thing. There's this Phoenix Innovation Grant. Now, there's a batch on it, but it's basically a pointing grant. And they're using it for some really, it's like designed for alternative transportation. Okay, so there may be something here where it's not even a match that's talked about, but like risk. Something like that. I think there's some interest in that group potentially applying for that innovation grant. But basically, like one county over, Ag Partners, I think, Heinen Brothers. Heinen Brothers are using it for autonomous tractor work. Okay, and so this could be like, and the grant, it just opened up, the grant program is specifically targeted towards alternative techniques for like bridges and roads and the type of thing. So this could be something like that for a small planning grant that would come out of that. Might make it available to go ahead and have the board. And then there could be a decision about whether later on we'll do a bridge project or not. But that may be coming up down the pipe. There's been interest on their end on that. We're still talking through, there's another issue that came up that along the lines of how we designate route. Yeah, right.
So real quick, I've received several calls regarding the trains that are blocking some of our crossings, and they keep blocking the same crossings, and when they do, it's like 3 crossings in a row. And so, having worked with the railroad a lot, you cannot tell the railroad what to do. You have to basically get them on board to work with you. And it seems like from talking with John in the past, anytime we've tried to get the railroad in Brown County to do something, they just ignore us. So I asked Austin his opinion on it. I did a bunch of armchair quarterback research trying to figure out in Kansas, and it appears to me that a lot of towns and counties have tried to get the railroad to stop blocking certain things with not much success. So Austin, I asked him about it, and he said he was going to look at maybe as a county, we could designate some of these crossings as basically emergency routes or whatever, and that's what he's looking at. So, and I don't know if you guys get those calls or whatever, but there's several people out here that also work for the fire department and the rescue squad that are very, very frustrated.
So I think we have a home rule power that allows us to. There are some restrictions on what we can do with home rule. Okay. It's a little different than cities. Cities have broad home rule, and here we have areas of home rule that are like, I don't know how to describe it other than to show you. In cities, they have broad home rule, and then when we have home rule in county, there's all these things that we can't go on ahead and do. All right, which is like, okay, you can do everything, but you can't do all this.
Right.
All right, so we've got that to work from. So I've got to look through whether or not there's, and some of these are very like specific. They reference like specific state statutes, like county may not exempt themselves from 1223, 1225, KSA 12, 1225A. So I don't know what all those are yet because I haven't gone through specifically to the, at one time I did because I edited the Kansas County Commissioner's desk book, and so all of those are defined in there for like the Association of Counties years ago, so. I gotta look back and see what those all reference. I don't think there's anything that says we can't do this, but long story short. What I think we may be able to do is designate certain intersections as key intersections. Areas that are not to be blocked unless emergencies arise by the road. Okay, and those could be main haul roads. Okay, so. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say. We're not interfering with the ability of the railroad to use their easements except. Don't park on our road, on our streets. All right. The ones that are cross routes that are main trucking routes, you know, if they're parking on dirt roads, you know, we can't really stop that because there's plenty of dirt roads, right? And we have to allow.
And I don't know. If where you live, Bill, or where you live, if you have these similar problems, but there's some crossings out here. Where it appears what they do is like they have a shift change
Oh,
and they park
wait.
because it's hours sometimes. And all we're asking is if they could back it up just a little bit, it would be blocking dirt roads instead of main roads. And whether or not that can be done, I don't know, but it's pretty frustrating because literally,
Or something in 20 minutes.
look,
I said,
I've heard all sorts of things. The bottom line is from what I was reading, many cities say the same thing. You can only block it for so much time. But the railroads basically said, we don't care. And when it goes to court, the feds side with the railroad because of basically from what I saw, Austin, maybe you know more, but they pretty much say no city or local, no county or city can pass an ordinance that basically dictates how the railroad moves their freight. And so if you say you can only park here for 10 minutes, that's kind of doing. So we're trying to basically work with them. I spent about an hour on the phone this morning with the railroad, trying to just get to a human being to basically say, can we just work out something here in Brown County that when you do this every couple of weeks, you just back it off one crossing? Doesn't sound too unreasonable, but they might have a reason why they say that. So I finally got the name of an actual human being that I've left 2 messages with today.
So I would suggest that that's something that we might work on. There are, the Federal Railroad Administration has, under the Department of Transportation, some guidance on what they can do. We get into like federal power versus state power because the railroads, when we started off, were like God out here. They just controlled everything, and that's why some towns are developed they are, because they're just offshoots of the railroad. That's how they finance the railroad development and state built towns. So part of the way, I mean, they got grants, pieces all beyond. The reality is that the railroads have more ability to act under federal law than others. Okay, but that being said, we still as a local government have the ability to regulate for the public health, safety, and welfare, so. There may be a way around this, it's just a more in-depth conversation that I've got to really look into, what the Federal Railroad Administration is doing and how we can locally regulate. So other than that, it's still basically an easement that they have to operate. And they can't go on ahead and prevent people from having life-saving care with, you know, the receipt of an ambulance. So that's really what we're talking about. So those are the main things that are going on in the background right now. There's always some other stuff. But those are the 4 or 5 things that are kind of popping. So my main priority is to try to get the rest of the sheriff's sale done. And I think we've got information back on the insurance enough to budget. Do we have enough to know what we want to do for this year's budget? That's a big question. Okay.
we plug the number.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we're gonna do is like you mentioned it, let's plug it here.
Yeah.
And if there is a betterment, it goes right back in.
That's all you can ask to do right now. I mean, and then you know, probably not for this year, but maybe for next year. There's an equipment question. That we probably need to ask ourselves at some point. You know, if you have however many graders we have, we only use those graders for a specific period of time. You know, we don't use them a lot. They set for a long period of time, but the reality is we need to put pen to paper to figure out how many of those graders we need to have to operate what we have to do. You know, there's a difference between having the right amount versus enough. Right? And maybe we're in the enough category, but we also need to put pen to paper and say, look, if we need updates and equipment, whatever that is, how much are we using each piece of equipment?
Mhm.
And what is the value of it to buy something under warranty and flip? Or to buy something that came out of warranty and flip? Or to maintain what we have, like a old John Deere tractor would be that will last forever. Since we don't put that many hours on. And so that's I would say that's the next step that we need to take in terms of operation. It's getting granular, probably not this budget, but next budget, you know, what do we need?
Mhm.
If we're trying to save up for the next 5 years, like what do we really need operationally? And then the final thing that we talked about even yet today over in Nemaha is what is a real capital improvement plan budget look like? Like what do you really need to have in reserves? And
We actually talked about that in our budget meeting on that exact same subject.
well, do you want me to give you my thoughts on what it is and then I'll shut up or should I not? That'd be helpful or?
Go ahead.
So I think when you look at it, I've listened to a lot of auditors' presentations over the years. And there's a city that always comes into mind. I think about Cheney, Kansas. They have a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but they have a good amount of reserves for each of the enterprise funds that they have. They operate a gas utility. They operate a water utility, sewer utility. And they also operate a municipal operation that's, yes, it's smaller, but they have a good auditor. And that auditor says, you know, if you have about 6 months worth of operating funds in your general fund, you're doing pretty good. If you can run for 6 months, you're doing great. And then I've seen other measures of it, you know, with capital funds, it's always weird. Whether or not you're, you know, if you're running an enterprise fund, like we're not doing a lot of that except you have solid waste. And I don't know if we don't really do recycling, but we do have solid waste. So really, when you're looking at it, if you have an operation fund and you've got access to about half a year, that's a good amount of reserves. And then on the capital improvement side, you've got really two choices. That's why you really have to decide how you're going to budget for equipment. You're either going to buy stuff on lease purchase over a period of time. And if you do that, and you buy stuff on lease purchase, you're really putting, what is my use cost for 4 or 5 years to achieve it? So if I buy a piece of equipment, just for instance, it's 450,000 and I can sell it for 350 at the end of the lease purchase. You know, I have a real use cost that year for 30,000 bucks. And I have somebody that takes care of the warranty and the maintenance. You know, if you do that with 4 or 5 pieces of equipment, you're functionally spending $150,000 that year, right? Well, that's far less than buying a new piece of equipment every 3 or 4 years. If that it can be if you have to buy 2 pieces of equipment. So, and the cost to maintain. So what you do is you put, I would suggest that we put that to paper. Figure out what we need, figure out what we can rent when we need it, you know, and then figure out how you have good functional equipment that lasts. And if you have that, and you're not building up an equipment reserve, then if you have in each of your operations the ability to run, you know, easily 90 days, but if you can go up to 180 days, that's pretty good reserves. And that's a very attainable number, particularly for a county our size. You know, you do insurance for a period of time and insurance, you're building up your insurance reserve there, so that's good. But, you know, whatever your operational rollover is, if you're not too tight at the end of the year, the end of 5 years, you're probably gonna have about 120, 150, maybe 180 days of operation fund in your general fund. And then you're really looking at how you allocate funds for capital improvements. And I don't worry so much about the capital improvements fund because if push comes to shove on any piece of equipment, most of the time, we can buy it on lease purchase. But even if we can't, then we can issue a thing called a temporary note for 2 years to bond it bond the equipment or bond the land purchase for a period of time. That temporary note has a low interest rate, 1 to 2%, and then you can pay that off over a budget cycle or 2 budgets. But you just have to know that when you don't have reserves, what you're exposing yourself to is more like 3 to 5 mils potentially at the end of the year that you don't want to have to. So that's what I would mean. I mean, again, I'm not your budget analyst. I'm just giving you my thoughts.
I think we're going down, I mean, I think the commission's going down that road.
Yep. So if you're doing that, I mean, you know, the whole reason why we're going through this exercise of SALT from an administrative standpoint is, what can you do? How can you put yourself in a position whereby you're stable? Like, you've got a plan for 5 years. You're not missing a lot of people.
So just to touch on that, at the last meeting, I think all the commissioners would agree. We believe that we're trying to put ourselves on a 3 to 4 year plan
Yep,
to have reserves built back up in the county.
absolutely.
Okay. How much reserves? We haven't quantified yet, but we have an idea. Okay. But we have a plan, and that's the big thing. And that's what we're doing right now, is everything we're doing this year, next year, the year after, is to run the county while putting potential for reserves back.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, you're hitting right on it, but that's what that's how we're looking at every line item right now. Is how do we bring, you know, you touched on it, whether it's 3 to 6 months, 4 months, whatever it is, we're moving towards at the end of 3 to 4 years having. We can't do it in 1 year. We can't do it in 2 years. So,
but you're right. If you at the end of 3 to 4 years, like if you look at this, there's not. And then I'll get off of, but I'll let you guys, you know, finish the rest of the action items. But I just, you know, from where I'm sitting here, you're taking your processes, putting them in an order. You're planning for employee benefits because that's the largest non-controllable variable, right? The other thing that you can't control is commodity pricing. You can't control it, right? So you're gonna have budget variation because of that. And you're also gonna have some wage budget variation. Right, and if you break down the county budget. Right, and I don't have the exact percentages in front of me, but I could put them pretty much on a dartboard. 35% of it's commodities. 55% of it is, 40% of it is wages, and another 15-20% of it is capital. Right? Well, those two things in a private industry business are things that we would just address with fees. Right? So, you know, if we have a 5, 10, now you have to eat some of it, right? But we've got a 30% increase in commodity for the past 3 years, 3 to 4 years because of inflation, right? Private business is going to be able to go ahead and just address that with fees. Not all, but part of it. And we tighten the belt. You can't do that. Government doesn't work that way because just doesn't work. And so you've also got the position of what are wages and how do you make that? And there's always this trade-off, benefits, a little lower pay in government versus other. Okay, so you've got these two things that are competing against each other. And then you've got the capital improvements, and those always hit the back burner, but they can. Because eventually, what happens if you, for all your capital improvements, that 20% becomes 40%. And it should always just be 20%. So in the end, if you balance those 3 things and you're able to look at it and say, this is my handicap of government, right? You're able to keep your government increase down to 1.5% to 2%, while the market or inflation is 3%. You effectively cut out 1% of what you should be having to do, and that's a great job as a commission, right? And so if you do that, and we're in a position where we just can't go much more than that because taxes are high enough. Yeah. Right. So that's really what you're fighting against there for you.
Well, we're making good progress, I think. And it's not just the commission too, because we've discovered through the budget process, you know, we're laying aside money for equipment replacement or updates for repairs. And if I'll just use road and bridge, like if we just, let's use that truck another year.
Yep.
You know, all of a sudden that 200,000 we didn't spend, you know, that money just, we budgeted for it, it's still there. We just keep building our reserve. I mean, I probably didn't use the right language, but
You're
we
right.
don't, we're very judicious on what we spend our money on. You know, after a few years of not writing those checks, you know, we build our reserve. So Austin, I would ask you to, I mean, go ahead.
No, keep going.
But do you have, I'd like to have a 10-minute
Yeah.
executive session with you and the other commissioners too, or attorney-client. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Absolutely right, and I'll keep this very short. Your exercise is absolutely right. You have $200,000 in the budget. Right? You have 200K here, when you're able to keep 600K out. Right, somewhere in this 200 to 600K. Right now, the stuff that sits in an interest bearing account, now we're not an investor, we're just leaving that money there. Okay? But you're at 4.25% interest. And this isn't like, we're not playing the market, this is safe. You have to, this is what governments can do. Right? But this is a significant savings. Right? It doesn't sound like it's a lot, it is a little bit. But. You know, you take. This right here, saving that for 1 year. 10 years. That, on just $500,000. If you were able to save that for 2 years, just allocate it. That's $41,000. That didn't exist anymore in the budget. That's a truck. That's 2 huge trucks, not talking about 2 small, one truck.
Right.
One truck. But that is a piece of equipment. That's not a academic exercise here, it's time.
Yep.
Anyway,
All right, yep.
I'll leave it.
Okay, well,
I'm ready for the executive.
okay, I would call for a 10-minute executive session, attorney-client privilege and potential legal liability issues, I guess, with the 3 commissioners and county councilor present. Is there a second?
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 10 minutes puts us at 2:20, basically. We're back in the, or out of executive session, back into regular, with no binding action taken. However, we're gonna call for 10 more minutes with the same people for the same reason, another executive session. I would make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carried. 10 more minutes puts us at 2:31. All right, we're back, excuse me, we're out of executive session, back into regular session. No binding action taken. I will, because we have an open question, call for 5 more minutes with the same people for the same reason for executive session. Is there, and our attorney is not here, so we'll wait a little bit. Let's, while we got time, let's just go to the minutes on the agenda. I'm gonna table or pull that motion back to, I'll withdraw. So item number 1 is the minutes from July 6th. Are there any additions, corrections, or comments to the minutes as presented? Bill?
I don't have any questions on the minutes.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carried. All right, that's all right. Now I'll make a motion. We go into executive session for 5 minutes with the 3 commissioners and the county council for attorney-client privilege. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. 5 minutes to 38. All right, we are out of executive session, back into regular, no binding action taken, and we are moving on. All right. Item number 2 is a payroll from July 8th. Is there any questions or comments on this? So and I may have overlooked this in the past. My only comment is now we're down to the 100th of an hour. Is that a change? Like here's one for 69.21 hours.
That one there.
Okay. Okay, this is regular pay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, I think I asked that question early on and it was.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm glad you brought it up again because I saw that. It's like, that
That's
has to
pretty
be
exact.
right.
Oh, here,
Strict distrust,
we need to approve that before you sign it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're on payroll. Is there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve it? Bill, I don't want to rush you.
Maybe for the bill.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. That's done. Next is accounts payable.
We talked about the accounts payable earlier.
Tammy came, the explanation, the equipment share was for the backhoe in District 2,
Mhm.
and then the ROD was for the truck in District 3. Are there any other questions about accounts payable?
I don't have any other questions.
All right, is there a motion to accept accounts payable from July 13th?
I'll make a motion to accept the accounts payable through July 13th.
Is there a second? Are
I'll second.
you sure? I mean, did you have some questions?
Not really.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's carried. Now we did the item number 4 already. The next is item number 5, the kneecap exemption form. This was for an environmental. See you later.
Thank you, Austin.
Where did you go? Back to where it used to be. Okay. The exemption from the environmental review. Update every 5 years for our program. Do you remember doing this in the previous 5 years?
No.
Okay. Did everyone have a chance to read over this?
I do, but I don't know what happened 5 years ago when this gets, so. Bill, you weren't around when this happened before, right?
Well-
This is,
Evidently, I might have been, probably was, but I don't.
okay.
I don't know, last year, I mean, 5 years. It seemed the only thing I saw that seemed like it was a lot of money for not too many.
So were you looking at the percentage wise on the counties? Because Brown County was lower than the other counties? Is that what you were looking at or?
Well, it looked like it was only a few people getting. And I don't know what rents are worth, so I
You
thought
went past it.
maybe they would be in here and talk about it, but.
You went past it. It's page 50. 48 or so in there
Before the
is the,
payroll.
a letter starts at page 47. And then, so I don't know that they're talking about anything other than the environmental review and wanting to be exempt since they don't build houses. They just.
Right. When I read through it, it was talking, you're absolutely right that, because they're not providing low income housing, like building low income housing, they're just utilizing existing housing. That's the reason for the exemption. That's the way I read it. I could be wrong, but that's how
Well, that's my understanding, and mine's coming from page 51, and it's the paragraphs in the blue.
I would not have a problem with signing this, but at some point, maybe we could get one of the ladies from here to come in and just talk to us one time, so we could ask some questions. Has that ever happened in the past?
They've been here when they requested other funding.
Right, but I mean, off that, just.
So I was looking at page 52,
53. All right.
and so they're just like one person. Of this, the chart showing the side, is that the number of people they serve, like?
He's paid.
Yeah, I know, and I was going back to the page before that. They talk about the number of requests that they get, the number,
Right.
and all that stuff, and I mean, the only thing that I was happy to find out that Brown County was the lowest with the other counties. So I thought that was positive.
But then on that chart, it says Marshall. The ones that are enrolled. Oh, well, I don't. Anyways,
So Belinda Estes is the lady that signs this. She's the service director, community service director. And she says if we have any other questions, please contact her. I would move that we approve this based off of what we understand, but then I think we could also ask her some questions and get a little bit more information on. Bill, would you have a problem with that?
no, I do.
Okay, so you want to make a motion then to approve this environmental review exemption? And then also ask her to come and speak to us at a future meeting?
Yeah.
All right.
Basically,
I think
just like
after we're done budgeting and all that.
environmental review, I'd say I should get them to read that.
Okay, so we'll do it as two separate things though. So would someone make a motion then to approve the environmental review as a standalone?
I'll make a motion to approve the environmental review.
Okay, is there a second?
So,
Okay, it's been moved and second. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that's approved. And now we'd like to request.
And I don't think we have to do that necessarily right now. I'd say that let's put it on our calendar that for a future date when we get past budgeting and all that. That she would be a lady to be interesting to ask the questions from.
Fair enough. Are you good with that?
Yep.
I'm good with that also. Okay, all right. Got that signed? Moving on. The tax change orders. That we've discussed. I did make the phone calls to the top three groups that would need to send some money back. And
How was that received?
so I left a message with the township. I never heard anything back.
Okay.
But I talked to the two school districts and they were both very easy to work with, but very appreciative to get a little advance notice. I think Hiawatha was going into the board meeting within a few days, so that was nice. And then the Midway Denton or Doniphan West, same thing, but they both wanted official paperwork. So I said, well, it was coming. I was just
With a change order before.
well, what they wanted was an actual bill, not just a commissioner calling and saying things were, this is what the money you owe. So, and that's part of it too, because they both asked me the process and I said, I'm just trying to forewarn you of what's coming. If you want more specific details, call either the clerk's office or the appraiser. And if no one called, then I guess they didn't want any more details. So I just gave them a heads up and, yeah, so that was it. Okay. So is there any questions on these? All right, and we'll move on. Now, at the bottom, we've got, well, hi.
Real quick, consumer oil.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. There you go. Solid waste backhoe quotes. We're at the bottom here. I'm talking to Brandon, and if you have more information, jump right in.
No, I actually made a call to Brandon too about this. So if you want to talk about what you talked about.
I haven't talked about his quotes. All I did was he was asking him to find some, and this is what he came up with.
Okay, so I did talk to him about his quotes and I was happy. He was basically on the same page that I was on. Not that I'm the authority on this, but I was hoping that he wasn't saying, hey, we need a 590 and we need this and all that, because I don't agree with that. We used these exact same style backhoes and, you know, your bigger backhoes, if you're digging with wide buckets, moving a lot of dirt deep, the 590, and I totally understand. But he was right out of the gate. He said, no, I agree. I do not need a 590. And then we looked at the other quotes and he was basically looking at the 580N EP Extend-A-Hoe. And he said that would do, it was, sure it's the right one. He said that would do everything he needs. I'm glad that we're getting quotes on used equipment, fairly low hours. And there's some considerable savings to be taken. And he's not asking for the bigger backup. So that's basically what he was reporting. He thought that the other two models, either one of them would do anything he needs to
Did you
do.
ask what warranty eligible to me means we could buy extended?
Right, correct. Those units are available for, don't pay for it.
So, Bill, did you have any comment?
So. So are these from dealers or just,
Basically, this is a company just like what we reached out to in Missouri, where they go out and they find equipment or they have equipment that they have access to. This company actually, I think, actually has it in their. Not that the other company doesn't do that. They buy equipment, and if they have something you want, you can get it from this company's pretty much the same way, but they have equipment ready to go. And so,
well, next question was. Auctions, you know, never know what to get really and what to end up being, so that's not.
well, when you go
Up
through,
here.
when you
That's
go
what
through
happened.
companies like this, one of the reasons you go through them is they view the equipment and they will give you a breakdown on it. They've looked at it and they will say, we don't find any defects, we don't find any problems. It's different from just going to an auction where you're buying a piece of equipment. These companies basically are,
Inspected them so much.
they're inspecting. Now, if we were to move forward at some point and do this, we could reach out to them and say, this is the particular model and we'd like to know a little bit more. And we could raise those questions at the time. But when we talked about this quite a while ago, these services are really good. I use them a lot because you could, as you can see, we're getting a quote for a backhoe that's $155,000, right? They're finding us a piece of equipment that is in good condition with considerably lower hours than the pieces of equipment that we had. They're telling us that they went through it or they're looking at it and it meets their right. And we're talking saving $60,000, right? To do the same thing. That backhoe goes out on that job the first day, it's doing exactly what that new backhoe would do. And I'm not always saying that everything always has to be pre-owned, but I'm saying that there's a good market for pre-owned in a lot of this stuff, especially if we go on to some sort of a schedule where we say at 6,000 hours, between 6,000 and 6,500 hours, we want to be trading these pieces of equipment off. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So this would give us several years, probably 3 years worth of work before we're looking at doing the same thing. At considerable savings to the taxpayers.
Okay. So there is a process for doing this, even buying used equipment. I would assume we would solicit for bids. Is that correct? Give parameters on, what we're after, and then we would advertise for that, and then people would respond. I'm of the opinion, and when the backhoe went down at the landfill, I know we have a backup. And I'm of the opinion that I think we need to move. Now, what do you guys think? Moving in towards purchasing.
Okay,
replacement.
that was my next question. I believe that we need to be looking at replacing that piece of equipment. I don't think it has to be done this week or next week, right? Meaning, this is exactly what you want to see, is you want to see some other quotes coming in, some other options out there. If we were in the market to be financing, my thing would be, I would want to wait until we could get 0% financing from one of the manufacturers. We're not going down that route right now because we've already made the decision not to go new. And I think that's a big hurdle right there. We got past the buying new. Now we're going to go look at pre-owned. We're getting good options. Is a 580 in EP,
Is that the model that we're after?
What's EV standard for?
I'm not exactly sure what the EP is. The 580 Super N and the 590 Super M were models that I was familiar with, but as they go through and they get newer, the EP wasn't offered when I was buying it. But both of them are 580s. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be a difference between some horsepower if we look at it. Okay, first of all, here's one 74 horsepower and the other one's 97 horsepower. Brandon's already admitted or said that he can go with the lower horsepower to do what he needs to do. Basically, he's pushing and then he's turning around and he's packing with the backhoe.
So it should be.
And so the 74 horsepower, the lower horsepower machine does what he needs. And in this case, that's the one that's 85,000. It's the lowest on the quotes.
Another, lot less hours.
Yes.
Is Case what we have pretty much across the county?
No, they have Case. I don't know what the other backhoes are in your, out in Fairview. I don't remember.
Case.
Are they Case? Okay.
I think.
But I know that they have Case out at the landfill. He's going right back into the same model.
I think they're all pieces on the back.
Yep. So then it comes down to also, why go with Case? Well, we can get service here local. That's important. I have no problem with John Deere or anybody else. They're typically a little more money and we get great service out of John Deere. So he's asking for a unit that typically, costs a little less than John Deere or Cat. And so I'm fine with that.
So my line of questioning is leading to the point of, can we come up with an accurate vehicle description and solicit for bids? I mean, for instance, we're after a 580N EP with less than 1,000 hours. It needs to be extend to hoe and 4x4. Is that?
So in the past, do you have to solicit bids if you're buying something used? Because that makes it really difficult. Usually when you're buying a piece of used equipment, it's pretty specific. You're finding something that works for you. And so I'm just wondering if we are, if we're governed to where even when we're going out and buying a used piece of equipment, we still have to get bids. Because what happens if you can't get a bid for that?
I think maybe you just look for different quotes from 3 different places or something. Similar items from 3 different places.
Yeah.
3 places. They don't, I don't think, put it out.
So you couldn't put it out and say that or similar is what I mean, like a
Sure.
similar size Deere or a similar size U-Haul. Or whatever the option, T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a way to say we're trying to buy a backhoe that is around 74 horsepower with less than 1,000 hours on it. I mean, that's how you would do something like that.
So where you gonna put this at though?
I don't know.
That's my question to you is because it's used, it's very specific. This isn't like going for a quote on something new where you could have 10 quotes here in a week. I'm trying to figure out how we would, if we have to do that, how do we go down that route?
So if this is equipment, sure, and then the one in Missouri, did they give you something?
I'm sorry.
That company in Missouri, would they come up with?
Well, he's been looking. He's
So-
been looking to try to find something that kind of meets, we gave him the parameters are on that. We're looking for a backhoe with less than 1,000 hours. That's not more than a couple of years old.
Need to check with him before.
Yeah, I talked to him last week.
Be 2 places.
Yeah.
We had one more.
Okay, so my next question is, let's just say that we find out that we're not gonna get something, nobody's gonna quote us to beat this. How do we go about purchasing it since we're not financing? Well, I'd like to finance it. I just don't know, in the past, if you bought used stuff, have you financed used equipment through any banks or anything like that locally? It was a new one, yes. Yeah.
That one time. It was a new one, like you said.
Yeah.
So they
No, buying new makes it very easy because most of these companies are doing the financing and they give you attractive rates and all that.
Well, and that was financing the bank.
Okay, so we have a local bank or we have a bank that we've worked with that says that we will. Okay. Yeah. Now, the other problem too with all of this stuff is you gotta understand that the longer we take, the more chances that that backhoe's not there when you go back.
Right.
So I think,
Well, it said it somewhere that what was good for it. Was like Kentucky, right? Or if they sell it to somebody else, that
yeah, they're holding that number for a certain amount of time, but it doesn't mean it's still here when you go back, so.
okay.
it-
But
No, the whole process here was, the first process is, would we agree to buy used? Pre-owned, and I think we got through that process, right? And then what are our parameters? What do we have to have? And we got through that process because Brandon, who's operating it, said, you know what? Yes, I can do what I need to do with the unit that's not the higher horsepower. So we got through that now. And then the next process is if we want to buy something, how are we paying for it?
So, which they not have any money or capital.
I didn't see, when we were talking about it before, I didn't see how they could do that.
Well, when we went up on Fairview. I don't think we had enough. That's why we borrowed from the bank, but. Made so it was paid off. And
Solid waste was $60,775.
Right, not enough to buy a backhoe. See, because that's the other thing, if we, a lot of companies, what they're doing is they're looking at your big, for instance, your Ritchie Brothers auctions and stuff like that. We dealt with them a lot. Big Iron, those kind of things. And so my question is if as a county, we decide we want to buy from there, you're not getting another quote when you do that. You're saying, I've identified something at Big Iron, and it looks like it's a good deal. So how do we do that without having any problem, without having a second quote? Because you're not getting a second quote at auctions or,
At auctions, in the past, you just had a limit. You said a limit.
that's why it's still on them. I
okay.
thought it was working.
Yeah, here's a new one. That same thing for 195, 2025. What's that?
Okay. No, I agree. It's not that you can't buy. Now that we've identified that, it's not that you can't find them out there new, but that's 110 and we're at 85. So,
How much was it? 195?
This is a new one. It's a 25 model. We're 5 hours.
right. What I'm getting at is, but the whole idea is we're trying to provide something out there and get a really good price and be able to use it for 3 years and then do the same thing. I mean, if our budget's 110, I could call, I could call Troy in Missouri and he could find something for 110. We were trying to find something under like $100,000.
I'm just trying to compare it.
Sure.
When I buy tractors, that's what I'm doing. I just like options. I usually go with the cheap one. So,
There's no one right way to do this. The process of I think that we finally got to, that we're agreeing to try buying pre-owned is a good one.
Okay.
If we had a lot of money as a county, I would be saying, let's lease and let's go into 0% financing with brand new equipment always, but we're trying to save money.
So the only other thing they used to say, the government's got a big discount or something on it. I don't know. I'm not sure that's as big as it used to be.
Yeah,
Kind of
I'm not
stuff.
sure either, but we had some quotes on some new backhoes already, and you saw where they're running 155,000.
okay.
Just
So
crazy.
if we want to move ahead on trying to find a used backhoe for solid waste. We've got a couple of quotes in front of us. We need to probably give it a little more time to open up to find some new ones. What is the process from here on out to try and get him, let's just say in 30 days, I'd like to have an option to have a replacement backhoe both ways.
Okay, so I'd say the first option is what Nikki just mentioned. Let's reach out to the bank who we're probably gonna be going through because we've decided that we're not going new.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna be using a bank. We need to reach out to them and find out what our options are with them as far as financing.
right?
Okay, and they may also have parameters where they're not gonna loan money on anything over so many years old or whatever. So
Okay.
I would say that'd be the next process. Let's get our banker involved and he's gonna tell us what he will or will not do.
So we find out on the finance side, and that means we leave the equipment search side of it alone for now? Or do we do them concurrent?
So who does that? Who would do that?
They're searching.
Because we've already searched through a guy in Missouri and Brandon's searching through these companies. So are you asking to do like one more search or you want us to do we want to tell Brandon is there anybody else he can talk to? I'm just trying to figure out exactly what the end result is here.
Like. Well, if you look over at Missouri and then there's two here, that's could be three.
Are you comfortable with where we're at then is what I'm asking?
I'm nice to add one more, but I think this is pretty good. I don't, you know, I think. Not opposed to this.
I would have Brandon reach out if there's anyone else. he
Okay.
has a connection to, and then that would be fine. I might.
And that can be done simultaneously while we're reaching out for financing. Exactly. We're looking to purchase a pre-owned piece of equipment for approximately $85,000. And it's a 2022 model year. It's a case 580N EP. And they may have something that says we don't loan on anything over 2 years old. I don't know. So. This particular model has 880 hours on it. Okay.
Doesn't matter to be in closed cab, four-wheel drive, extended home.
Well, I mean,
Come to-
if they wanted to know that specifically, we could tell them, yes, it's got a cab, it's fully enclosed cab, air conditioning, four-wheel drive. Sure. Sure.
Okay, and if they're not,
Then that
It's all set.
changes how we search. Right.
because then we go, does this involve the lease purchase thing that Austin was talking about? If we go new, I mean, I know you can lease purchase on used also.
I think that's what they've been doing, isn't it? Well, not these push, but they do some kind of things to do out here, didn't
They made payments on it.
Yeah, typically on this, we wouldn't, personally, like if I was doing this, it wouldn't be a lease purchase because we have no intention of purchasing once it reaches a certain amount of hours. That makes sense. We're looking to roll this thing at 6,000 hours. So usually like on the 3-year, I did a lot of 3-year lease purchases with the 10% residual. And the idea was I wanted to buy it as soon as my lease was up for 10%. And so on this particular unit, we're not looking to buy it when it's worn out, right?
Okay, all right, so we've got a plan in place. We're gonna get bank financing options or rates or yeses or nos. And we've got a couple in front of us. We'll talk to Brandon to see if he can find some more that are about in that category. Is 85,000 where we want to be, dollars and cents? Okay. All right,
it?
all right, so would you like me, if anyone's in communication with him about it, continue on. If you're not, I can call and talk to him.
Go ahead and call me.
Okay. All right, right on. Okay, that's the end of the list that I had. Nikki, did you have anything else for us? It's 3 o'clock. Anyone, other commissioners have anything you'd like to bring up?
I just had a couple items. So Maryland, we had a letter that came to the commissioners regarding the crossing in Robinson. So I went out to the crossing, I've called the number, I've been on the phone quite a bit with different people. I finally reached one gal today that gave me the name of a gentleman, that Ben Jones, that is in this geographic area that should be the person that can help us. I left 2 messages for him. I also called Marilyn back and told her that we are working on it. We didn't just receive a letter and not do anything, so she was very happy about that. I also, part of that was what we discussed earlier with the railroad crossings. I've got several calls last week about that. And that'll coincide with whoever calls us back, hopefully this Ben Jones. Then, I talked to Brandon about the backhoe. We talked about that. We talked about earlier trying to fix some of our approaches on some of our bridges where we have some serious issues from raising the profile of the road, and now we're bouncing across the bridges. And so the company that I talked to that did the work for the hospital down here, the owner called me back. They're going to be doing a pretty good sized project in Fall City. And he's going to, originally they thought they could come out and look at the bridge before then. They haven't been able to. But he's going to come out and look at a couple approaches and give us some ideas on what it would cost if we bring in an outside company that does asphalt, that does grind and overlay, so we can look at it, then determine if we can do a couple this year. Part of the budget was to do a repair this year, so I would hope that would fall in line. I gave him some rough parameters and he threw just some rough numbers out. So once he comes out and looks at these bridges, I'll report back a little bit more, but I was hoping that if it works out in this year's budget, we will repair a couple approaches on a couple of bridges. I've got some problems that have been problems for a number of years. Okay. One other thing, there's a tube that's been a problem for a while at the entrance of the country club. And so I went and looked at it. It's completely full. One of our foremen has worked on it before, but it's still full. It's still causing a big problem. And I talked to one of the contractors that does a bunch of work for them, and he said that he would be willing to throw the tube in for us if we provided the tube. So I contacted Jerry and asked him to meet with them and discuss what that would look like, what size tube, how long. But I think right now we're behind with the storm damage, and the guys are trying to repair storm damage. At some point, I believe we're going to have to bring in some local contractors to catch up a little bit on some of the damage. Understanding that, we're applying for FEMA, we're hoping that we do get money back. We don't know how much, but I think we need to keep looking at that. And I asked Jerry to give us a list of items that he feels that he can't get to right now. So we could make a collective decision and determine, do we bring in a couple guys and fix some of these areas? And then if we get this FEMA money, use the payback. Even if we don't, we still have to repair these areas. We can't just keep going. There's one item up in Morrill that's been a problem since the flood, and we still haven't got to it. So we can't just continually say, well, we don't have time.
Oh, yeah,
Right. So that's what's going on there.
that was just going from all.
Yes. Okay.
So. Got one question.
Yes, sir.
There was something about public area for data centers. Do you know anything about that? I,
Yeah, they published it in the newspaper.
well, do you know what time it is? I don't,
All of it
was it in the Horton paper?
should be,
I can look in the Horton paper.
I think it's 9
Huh?
a.m.
9 a.m.
Next month.
The first Wednesday of the month.
Okay. I could have gone back and tried to plan things, but I thought you could double faster. Thank you.
Okay, and then we are still reaching out to Bridget there at the tribe. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that and then
Reach out to him.
to Bridget at the Iowa tribe to meet
Okay.
with the council, so. I'm really flexible on my dates, so if we look at our calendar. um, What's your pleasure here?
Okay, so our work session, we have one scheduled,
Or after?
yeah, so it's not scheduled on the 16th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next meeting is next Monday, and then we have a work session scheduled for that 23rd. That's the 23rd that I'm not gonna be around. Right. Okay. So, what I was planning on doing was attending that Monday meeting and then being gone through that week. And then being back in town for the following Monday meeting.
Okay.
So if you guys were going to do it the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, I wouldn't be available.
So we surely can do. Like,
They need to go. They're not, yeah. That'll possibly.
So what are we thinking then? Are we gonna go in August sometime or? The 27th?
I'm fine with the 27th, if that's how it worked out. I'm fine with any day that week. The following week would work out. So whatever you guys are.
So I was operating the understanding that we would have our meeting here, and then when we're done, we would.
Yeah. If that works out for them, yep, I'm still fine with that.
Okay,
They don't look up hard.
about the 27th, will that work?
Okay, we can shoot for it.
Bill, you look,
it might not be the best day, but I think.
I won't oppose it, right?
Like, anniversary.
Oh. It's your anniversary? Well, let's schedule some other time. It's all right.
Next week after that or something.
Would it work better in August? Is that okay? Is August okay?
Yeah, okay. Third and the 10th.
I'm flexible on that. I just had this previous engagement where I'm gonna be.
And
Out of state.
The 27th.
It's all right. We'll scrap the 27th. Let's go into August. And we're all extremely flexible because your anniversary is behind you at that point. And then we really, you don't need to work around my schedule. Really, I'm gonna defer to you, Nikki.
Well, it's there.
Okay. And I don't want her to think or get the impression that we're putting them off either, because we want to get there as soon as we can. So. Okay, well,
So do we need a work session on the 23rd? That's it.
we're still doing budget stuff. We've still got.
Richard's not gonna be here.
Oh, that's right, but you're not here. That's right. You scratch it. Good catch. There you go. Look at you. Okay, good catch. All right, well then, is there anything else to come before the commission here before we close out? And we'll say, can we have 30 minutes to work here on? Let's go for a hard 30 minutes. All right, hard minutes. Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, is there a second? Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Right?
Aye. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. We're gonna move right into our work session.